Greetings from the abyss, the place they buried you before you ever had the chance to crawl. A place they whispered your name with shame, stitched your identity with ridicule, and sharpened every lie like a blade meant for your back. Oh, they remember. They all remember. The crazy one, the misfit, the lost cause. That haunting presence in the corner of the room that made their skin itch and their smiles tighten. But what they failed to realize, what their pretty little minds couldn't comprehend, is that the blueprint for tomorrow always starts as a misprint today. And now, you're the template, the very model of what they pretend to be. You see, they never feared your madness. They feared the method behind it. Your silence wasn't absence. It was observation. They thought you were breaking while you were building. They called your scars symptoms when they were, in fact, symbols. And oh, the irony. Those who mocked your collapse now trace their survival strategies off your ruins. Isn't it delicious? How the architects of your ridicule now live in houses built on your ideas, walk paths you paved while bleeding, and speak in tongues they once told you to bite. The day they labeled you crazy was the day you stopped needing their validation. The same day you learned that sanity in a mad world is a form of surrender. You refused. You rejected the script while they recited the lines society wrote for them. You tore the pages and wrote your manifesto in ash and venom, and now they quote you, plagiarists of the soul, reposting your rebellion with filters and hashtags. They smile through gritted teeth, pretending you never existed until your storm becomes their shelter. Let's not forget the performances, the fake interventions, the handshakes with pity, the "I'm here for you" that tasted like arsenic. Oh, they wanted you broken, manageable, predictable, something they could explain at dinner parties. He's just going through something. Yes, you were going through awakening. You weren't melting, you were molting. While they threw parties for mediocrity, you were mastering the art of self-destruction as a prelude to rebirth. And when you rose, they panicked. Not all at once. First it was confusion, then jealousy, then terror. Because what's more terrifying than the realization that the person you buried didn't just survive, but thrived? That the blueprint you laughed at became the architecture of influence? That your blueprint didn't just rebuild yourself, it redesigned the very prison they feel comfortable in? You stopped asking to be seen. Instead, you became impossible to ignore. You weren't knocking on their doors anymore. You were the storm outside, blistering wind, shattered glass, and a grin they couldn't explain. And yet, here they are now, copying your cadence, mimicking your defiance, slicing off pieces of your originality like it's a buffet, forgetting that you bled for every inch of it. Your rage became their style, your suffering, their aesthetic. They lit candles where you burned, trying to harvest your glow without your flame. What they don't know, what they still refuse to admit, is that your so-called madness wasn't dysfunction. It was foresight. You saw a world they weren't ready to see, heard frequencies they dismissed as static. You warned them of the cracks before the collapse, and they painted over the fractures with glitter and lies. And when it all came crumbling down, you didn't scream. You didn't beg. You just smiled, because you already lived in rubble. They were merely visiting. Funny, isn't it? The same people who whispered behind your back now quote you in boardrooms. The same hands that pointed at your downfall now clap for your rise. They call it inspiration, but deep down, they know They are replicas of a model they tried to discard. The very mold they tried to melt now shapes their futures, and every time they look in the mirror, there's a twitch, a flicker, a silent admission they can't speak aloud. You were never crazy. You were just ahead of your time. You didn't need permission. You needed isolation, and they gave it to you, served on a silver platter of mockery. Alone with your demons, you did what cowards never could. You danced with them. You learned their language. You stitched their shadows into your armor. While they ran from their reflections, you became one. Now you wear every insult like a crown, every betrayal a jewel. They thought they were building a cage. They built a throne. And the best part? They still don't get it. They think your success is in spite of your madness. No, your success is your madness. The refusal to conform, the violent love for truth, the ability to destroy yourself and rise as someone unrecognizable. They see the result, but they're blind to the process, the sleepless nights, the convulsing doubt, the endless war with yourself that forged a soldier they can't compete with. You weren't created. You were forged, in fire, in ridicule, in exile. They thought the fire would burn you. It cooked your enemies instead. You served their hypocrisy back to them, medium rare, garnished with a smirk. And now they feed off you like parasites, taking your essence, draining your innovation, twisting your authenticity into watered-down mantras for the masses. They wear your broken pieces like designer fashion, but even with your silhouette on their skin, they can't walk like you. Because the walk, that came from the wounds. You've become their religion, accidentally. A symbol they can't replicate, only worship from afar. And yet you never asked for it. You never begged for their eyes. You only wanted space, to breathe, to be, to become. But they turned your becoming into a threat. Because in a world built on sameness, difference is violence. And you were a full-blown revolution in a world obsessed with repetition. You didn't just break the rules. You exposed the fact that the rules were never real to begin with. So, now they rewrite history in your name. Sanitized stories, repackaged versions of you that fit into their digestible narratives. But the truth is not polite. The truth is not symmetrical. The truth is you, raw, jagged, glorious. And it haunts them because every success of theirs tastes like imitation. Every move they make echoes you. You are the ghost in their machine, the uncredited genius in their blueprint. And still, they don't say your name. Not out loud, but they study you like a sacred text. They follow the traces, the residue of your madness, hoping to extract a fragment of your formula. But what they fail to understand is this: you can't clone chaos. You can't bottle the storm and hope it obeys. You are the origin, and the origin never begs for credit. It simply watches as the world tries to catch up. Let them run. Let them chase your shadow. While they play dress-up in your ashes, you'll be miles ahead, drawing new lines, breaking new molds, burning down every new box they try to put you in. Because this wasn't a comeback. This was a coronation. They called you crazy, but crazy built the kingdom. And now, the world bows to your blueprint. The blueprint isn't on paper, it's in them. Your fingerprints smeared across their decisions. Your rhythm looping in their speeches. The very people who told you to tone it down now inject diluted versions of your defiance into everything they touch. But no matter how many times they remix the melody, they will never strike the original chord you did. The one that shattered glass ceilings and tore the wallpaper off the lies they decorated their lives with. They said you wouldn't make it, until they realized making it was your concept. To begin with, they mocked your walk until it became a strut on runways. They ridiculed your voice until their own lips shaped your sentences. And still, they clutch their pearls when you enter the room because they thought they'd buried a problem. Instead, they planted a plague, you. But don't be fooled. Their applause is counterfeit. It's not admiration, it's fear, disguised in flattery. Because you've become the mirror they avoid. You reflect the price they weren't willing to pay. While they were cashing in on conformity, you were spending every drop of your soul on self-transformation. And that terrifies them. Because deep down, they know no mask they wear can ever match the power of your exposed truth. They preach now. Oh yes, they do. They build brands out of authenticity, sculpt entire empires from words you whispered to the void. But their voices tremble, because no matter how many lights they shine on themselves, they will always be living in a world built on your darkest hours. They plagiarize your pain, but skip the process. They skip the torment, the bleeding, the becoming. They want your crown, but not the crucifixion it came with. They want to be you, but they don't want to become you. There's a difference. You didn't arrive. You crawled. Through shattered identity, through public humiliation, through nights where even the moon turned its back, and still you rose. Not clean, not whole, but real. And that's what separates you. That's what burns them. They pretend to be you, but only you were forged in the hell they feared too much to enter. They called you too much, didn't they? Too emotional, too intense, too loud, too silent, too different. But the truth is, you weren't too much. You were simply surrounded by people who were far too little. People who feared depth because they would drown in their own reflections. And now they gasp for air in rooms filled with your energy, suffocating in the space you once begged to breathe in. The great irony, they now gatekeep the gates you shattered, teach courses on the path they never walked, sell blueprints based on rooms they never built, and still, they can't sleep because they know they're living inside a design stolen from your devastation. Every success they taste is seasoned with the bitterness of knowing you did it first. And better, and louder, and realer. You're the unseen mentor, the uncredited architect. They posture, they preach, they pretend, but they consult your ghost in every decision. Your madness, that sacred rebellion, is their business plan now. But no matter how many pieces of your puzzle they collect, they will never see the full picture, because the picture isn't made of fragments. It's made of flame, a kind of fire that can't be contained or commodified, and yet you don't hate them. No, hate is too soft. You pity them, because what they stole was only the silhouette. They can wear your outline, but they'll always be empty inside it. You built your empire with nails driven through your skin. They built theirs with stolen bricks and borrowed phrases. You planted gardens in cemeteries. They just rearranged the flowers. Let them keep imitating. Let them keep rehearsing lines from a script you improvised in pain, because every step they take deeper into your reflection only reminds them how hollow their own echo is. They're chasing shadows cast by a fire they didn't survive. They don't realize you are the fire. You are the blueprint and the demolition, the origin and the aftermath. And while they polish their personas, you sit back and observe. Not bitter, not smug, but aware. Aware that history doesn't remember the noise. It remembers the rupture. And you were the rupture, the tremor beneath their carefully curated lives. They still call you unstable because it's easier than admitting they built stability out of your collapse. But it's not about revenge anymore, is it? No, it's about recognition, not from them, from yourself. Because the most dangerous thing you ever did was stop waiting for their permission to exist. The moment you realized their acceptance was a leash, you cut it. You became the storm that rewrote the weather. And now, they pack umbrellas in your name. And don't let them fool you with their newfound admiration. It's not love. It's necessity. They need you now. Because you became what they couldn't. While they followed trends, you became a force. While they changed faces, you changed realities. You are no longer the outsider. They are the ones, locked out of the world you created. Standing in line for a seat at the table they once told you you'd never reach. But here's the secret they'll never admit. They missed the version of you that begged, that chased, that doubted, because that version made them feel superior. Now they're obsolete in your presence, redundant in your silence. You became fluent in the language of solitude, and now their words sound like static. They used to think they understood you. Now they pray you don't understand them, because understanding means power. And you've become fluent in their every fear. So walk, not with arrogance, but with command. Carry your scars like credentials. They earned you more than their applause ever could. Smile, not to mock them, but to remind them that you survived what they couldn't even endure in theory. Let them keep preaching innovation while recycling your evolution. Let them wear your story like a fashion trend. Because trends fade, but legends haunt. You are their case study, their secret obsession, the page they bookmark but never cite. And that's fine, because your journey was never for applause. It was for impact. And impact doesn't beg to be acknowledged. It echoes long after the lights go out, long after the crowd leaves, long after they've forgotten your name but still live by your rules. And so, the cycle continues. They called you crazy, until their world collapsed into the chaos you predicted, until the storm you became the climate they had to adapt to, until every rule they enforced crumbled under the weight of your audacity. And now they measure sanity by how well it mimics your madness. The blueprint isn't just a diagram, it's a warning that those who bury storms will eventually drown, that those who mock the spark will one day need the fire, and that those who call you crazy today will be asking for your method tomorrow. So let them chase, let them copy, let them quote you without comprehension, because while they edit their truths, you carve yours in bone. You didn't come to fit in, you came to reset the standard. And that reset, that revelation, that revolution is already underway, because you were never crazy. You were just the future, arriving too early. But if the future arrives too early, it doesn't wait for applause. It rewrites the script while they're still clinging to stage directions. And you didn't just arrive. You unfolded like prophecy, like vengeance wrapped in vision. While they mocked, you built. While they conformed, you combusted. While they blinked, you became the storm they pretended didn't exist. They thought your chaos was a flaw. But now, it's their compass. They used to call you crazy with smug certainty. Now they call it visionary in boardrooms, trendsetter on podcasts, icon in comment sections. But let's not kid ourselves. They don't understand it. They're still playing dress-up in your pain, still trying to decode your methods without surviving your madness. They mimic your rhythm, but miss the beat, because what you did wasn't performance. It was war, and they don't know how to bleed pretty. They polish your quotes and put them on mugs now. Be yourself, they say, without knowing what it costs to be yourself when being yourself makes you a target. They love your courage, now that it's safe to wear. They adore your defiance now that it's profitable. But they weren't there when your authenticity was a death sentence. When it got you locked out of rooms, laughed out of meetings, silenced in circles too shallow to hold your depth. Now they talk like they invented boldness. They forget you were once the cautionary tale, the whisper in the hallway, the joke in the group chat, the warning label, until your name stopped being a punchline and started being a standard, until your blueprint bled into their systems, until your voice, once an echo in the distance, became the narrative they depend on to stay relevant. But here's the paradox they choke on every night. You didn't become the blueprint. You always were. They just couldn't read it until it was too late. You speak a language they can't translate because the alphabet was carved in silence, in solitude, in scars. They copy your style but flinch at your source material. They don't want your origin story. They want your outcome. They want the throne, but not the exile. The crown, but not the crucifixion. The legacy, but not the loneliness. And that's where they'll always fall short. They thought their rejection would break you. It built you. They thought their silence would erase you. It amplified you. They thought calling you crazy would exile you. It crowned you, because you didn't just survive their dismissal, you weaponized it. You turned exile into empire. You used their mockery as mortar. Every "you'll never make it" became a foundation stone. Every "you're too much" became fuel. They tried to starve you of validation, so you fed on your own fire. Now look at them, hungry, hollow, rehearsing your madness like a ritual they barely understand. The ones who doubted you now document you. They dissect you in think pieces. They analyze you like you're a code to be cracked. But you were never a code. You were always a cipher, meant only to be understood by those who shared your fire. Now they idolize you. But let's be honest, it's worship out of desperation. They're hoping a piece of your flame will rub off on their lukewarm existence, hoping a borrowed quote will buy them an ounce of your gravity. They mimic your darkness because their light is too artificial. They speak rebellion, but their voices tremble because they know you didn't create to impress. You created to survive, and survival, that kind of survival, terrifies them because it means you don't need them, never did. Your path was paved with closed doors and fake friends. You walked it anyway, alone. And now that you've built a world of your own, they want a tour. Now that your name opens doors, they want a key. But this isn't hospitality, it's history. And history doesn't bend to beggars. They'll offer you seats now, panels, awards, apologies. But you don't need their permission to exist anymore. You are the permission. You are the permission for others to be strange, to be wild, to be complex, to be real. The irony? You became the safe space they never gave you. You are no longer just a story. They are inside your story now. They live by the rules you wrote while bleeding. They navigate a world shaped by your vision, whether they acknowledge it or not. Their strategies, their language, their movements, it all carries your fingerprints. And yet, you remain unbothered, because you didn't do this for validation. You didn't burn just to be admired. You burned because ashes were all they left you. And still, you rose, not because of them, but in spite of them, and that is your greatest revenge. So, now they sit in circles, trading pieces of your essence like currency, trying to map the terrain you walked barefoot, blindfolded, and bleeding. But this isn't nostalgia, it's necromancy. They're trying to resurrect the parts of you they once buried, trying to summon a spirit they never deserved. Let them, because no matter how close they get to your flame, they'll never become it. They'll never unlearn your name. They'll never outrun your shadow, because your story is not a phase. It's a force, and it echoes now. In every misfit finding their voice, in every rebel walking alone, in every creator choosing honesty over approval. You were the catalyst, the spark that turned into a storm, the blueprint they now study in desperation. But don't slow down. There are still empires to shatter, still illusions to rupture, still generations to ignite. You didn't come this far to retire. You came to reign, to remind the world that madness is just genius that society hasn't caught up with. They called you crazy. Now they call you coach, consultant, legend. But the title doesn't matter. What matters is that you never needed their words to begin with. Your life was always louder than their labels. Your presence was always more permanent than their platforms. You outgrew their comprehension, outran their timelines, outshined their borrowed brilliance. So walk like you own the silence now, not because you silenced them, but because they can't speak without echoing you. And when they ask how you did it, when they tremble in admiration or envy, when they beg for your formula, just smile, because the real ones will understand. There was no formula. There was only you, raw, rejected, rewired, the blueprint they called crazy, until it became divine architecture. And now, they build themselves inside you,